You're now tuned in to the Real Money Coach broadcast with host Tony Jackson, author of the book Increase, Protect, and Dominate Your Money. Get ready for winning tips and strategies to effectively manage your finances and learn the key principles of protecting and dominating your money. Now, here's author and host Tony Jackson.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. on the East Coast, and I am your host, Tony Jackson, and you're listening to the Real Money Coach Show. It has been a beautiful week in the Queen City of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm coming to you this morning on Praise 100.9, Charlotte's Inspiration Station, and as I always say each week, everywhere that you get your podcast. I have to tell you this. I'm really excited. Those of you who listened to the show last week, we had Justin Giles on, and then Justin came and he was the guest on the live show on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn on Tuesday. And the teaser that he gave on the radio show last week was that he was going to show us how to make $10,000 in 1 week. And through his word, he gave us 4 different ways that we could do that. He did that on Tuesday night. So I remind you, go to YouTube or Facebook, probably YouTube. Look at our previous live broadcasts. Go check it out. I'll probably take a piece of it and put it out as a second podcast in terms of some of the things that he was sharing with us. But I tell you what, I've been getting phone calls and all kinds of things from people who watched the show that said, it was one of the best shows that they've seen, and that he delivered on his promise. And so we're all excited about that. And so today, the theme of today is really going to be about education. And, I know that we are approaching graduation season. My son is going to be graduating here in May from Howard University. And, a lot of different graduations, high school, college, and all those type of things. And so today's theme is really going to be about education. And my special guest that I'm going to have here in a few minutes to interview is Dr. Paul Miller. He's a nationally recognized entrepreneur, educator, leader, author. And he's really passionate about eliminating the school-to-prison pipeline, right, and how to help elevate employment and financial challenges, especially for Black men. And so we're looking forward to unpacking some things with him as he's leading a number of schools in Rochester, New York. But on the financial side, I think we really can't talk about school, college, tuition without the topic that's just kind of been really the one that's been, in the headline news, right? So it's kind of taken over headline news. And that is the subject of student loan forgiveness. And this is such a huge issue. Politically, it's a big issue, in terms of, we're going into an election year next year. And here's the thing, is that there's about $1.5 trillion in outstanding student loan debt. The average borrower owes $37,000 in student loans. And so this has effect. If you don't have any student loans yourself, you probably know somebody that has some, right? Somebody probably in your family, somebody in your household, somebody that shares your last name probably has some student loan debt. And it's such a big issue right now. Really, there is like 2 Supreme Court cases involving student loan forgiveness. Now, this is fresh news as of Monday. As of Monday, the Supreme Court has made a decision that they are not going to allow a delay in relieving student loan debt. Now, this particular case isn't the one that we've all been talking about lately, where it's the $10,000 for everyone getting student loan debt if you're single under 125,000, married under 250,000. And I'm going to break all this down in the third part of the show. But this student loan debt relief that the Supreme Court just ruled in favor of the Department of Education was actually a suit that was filed while President Trump was still in office. And basically, the Supreme Court made a decision. We're not going to delay it. We're going to let this student loan debt forgiveness program move forward. So they still have to decide on the other student loan debt that was presented by the Biden-Harris administration that we're all very familiar with. And so when I come back on the third part of the show, we're going to actually break a little bit of this down, give you a little bit more background, remind you of exactly what's happening and what you can expect. When do you have to start paying your student loans back and all those kind of things? So we're going to have a really kind of detailed update in the third part of the show as best we can in about 7 minutes or so. So until then, we're going to take a short music break, and we're going to come back with this wonderful interview from Dr. Paul Miller from Rochester, New York. So you are listening to the Real Money Coach Show here on Praise 100.9, Charlotte's Inspiration Station.
I didn't think I could make it. Statistics said I should be dead by now. Trouble and wars all around. The doctors surely had counted me out. After all I had to face, you've been there, and you turned in every way. I survived it. Are there any survivors in the house tonight? Now I can go on. Come on, clap your hands with me. I didn't think I could make it. Statistics said I should be dead. Trouble and wars all around. The doctors surely had counted me out. After all, you've been there, and you turned it in every way. I survived.
Hey, Grace family, join author Tony Jackson for the Real Money Coach broadcast each and every Saturday morning from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9. Mr. Jackson enlightens you on the real secrets of money. He'll also help you increase, protect, and dominate your money. You can also catch Tony Jackson's The Real Money Coach every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube. Check out The Real Money Coach, Mr. Tony Jackson, every Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9.
Ladies, are you looking for gynecological care that is comprehensive, consistent, and caring? Your health is too important to get lost in the medical care shuffle. Hi, I'm Dr. Rochelle Brandon, and I'd like to invite you to Brandon Gynecology Associates, where we provide compassionate care for women. I believe that caring for a woman's health requires an individual approach. That's why I personally guide each patient's gynecological care, creating a plan that makes sense for each woman's mind, body, and soul. Visit us on the web at brandongynecology.com or call 704-510-1600.
Hey, Tony Jackson here. You know me as the Real Money Coach. Listen, I want to encourage you to do something. And what I want to encourage you to do is email me your questions, your comments, or even suggestions of topics that you'd like us to cover on the Real Money Coach Show. You can email it to info@therealmoneycoach.com. Again, that's info@therealmoneycoach.com. Email us your questions, your comments, your suggestions, and we will answer those on air and also on our Facebook Live YouTube show on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you email us so that we can get that information that you want to know in your ears. I am Tony Jackson, the Real Money Coach.
And welcome back to the Real Money Coach broadcast with author and host, Tony Jackson.
Welcome back to the Real Money Coach Show here on Praise 100.9, Charlotte's Inspiration Station. I am your host, and this is the Real Money Coach Show. And as I mentioned to you in the first part of our show, I am pleased and excited to have Dr. Paul Miller on the line with us. And let me remind you, he is an entrepreneur, educational leader, author. He's done some incredible things in terms of graduation rates and college acceptance rates as a principal and an administrator. And now he's moved on to even, let's say greater and better things affecting even more students. So, Paul, how are you this morning, Dr. Paul?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me on, good brother. I appreciate being here.
Man, I am always excited to talk to an educator. My wife is an educator. My daughter's an educator. I've been educated, right? So teachers and education has played a big part in our life. And so if you wouldn't mind just spending just a few minutes just telling the listening audience a little bit about you and what your journey is bringing you to where you are today.
Got you. Yes, sir. So, again, I'm Dr. Paul Miller. I am born and raised in Rochester, New York. Rochester, New York is one of the top 3 poorest cities in the country, highest murder rates per capita in New York State, lowest graduation rates for in the entire state, worst school district. I mean, Rochester's a tough place, man. I was born and raised in the trenches, but knew I needed something different, and education was my great equalizer. So I was able to, I was a good athlete, wasn't great. I played a little football, got hurt, decided I needed to do something else. So I ended up becoming a teacher, and then knew that I couldn't make the decisions that I needed to make for kids as in that role. So I said, I got to do something to be part of the solution and not the problem. So I went back, got a master's degree in administration, became assistant principal for years, still thought I needed to do more. Opportunities weren't coming the way I thought they should, so I went back and got my doctorate. So once I got my doctorate, things started to open up, and I actually got an offer and to move to a different city. So I moved to Albany, New York, and there I was I led a school called Green Tech, where we actually opened a second location, but Green Tech was all males, and it was 97% black males and 90% poverty, but I was able to go from a 57% graduation rate when I arrived to we averaged a 95% graduation rate, 100% acceptance to college, millions of scholarship money, and we saved a lot of young men's lives by the systems that we built, man. And so it's just been a blessing and opportunity. And so with that work, I've been able to write books. I've been able to speak all over the country. I work with schools all over the country. And now I moved back to Rochester, where I'm supporting 25 charter schools and trying to fill the gaps and some of the inequities and just trying to make sure that kids get what they need, because the systems are stacked against us, and education needs to be that equalizer. The same way it was for me, I'm trying to make sure that kids have that opportunity to get that back, brother.
Well, man, I think that's pretty awesome. And I'll be honest to you, I've been to Rochester, New York one time. I was there visiting an agent by the name of Barry and Mills. But yeah, that it was very much seemed like a blue collar town. And this has been years and years ago. And so, but, you know, just what you did at Green Tech High School, chartered school in Albany is just amazing, going from a 57 to a 95% graduation rate. And to me, Dr. Paul, and maybe we'll unpack this on Tuesday night, we're seeing really kind of like assault against education, where we're hearing so many people talk about, well, you don't need to go to college, you don't need to do this. I still believe that there's some things that we pick up going through that process of getting the degree that you don't get anywhere else. What's your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. And, you know, I definitely believe that that college is important because you can find yourself, you can find a key, you make lifelong friendships, you become socialized, you get to see a different environment. And you know what? At the end of the day, what I stand on is me having several degrees doesn't make me smarter than anybody else, but what it does is it opens doors. You see, in the larger spectrum of America, there's certain doors that I can walk through that others can't because I have the privilege of having these degrees. and it gives them those opportunities where, yes, you can get it other ways. You can, workforce development is huge now. There's so much that you can do, but the truth of it is that college degree will make it so no one can ever take your mind away from you. And so, and for years, we've been oppressed, and people have tried to take your bodies, but they can't take your mind. And so that college degree gives you an opportunity and a way to think, and it's an opportunity to prove that you can do it, even when other people think you can't.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So you said, you put doctor in front of your name, PhD behind your name. It puts some weight on it, right? It puts some weight on it that you can go places.
Put some respect on my name, right?
Put some respect on my name. Man, do you watch Abbott Elementary? Do you like that? Do you watch that show?
I've watched some episodes. It is rather funny. I like it. I don't watch it all the time, but I do appreciate it. I do like it.
Yeah, my wife just cracks up because she works in the school. Actually, my sister-in-law is a school social worker, so they get quite amused. One of the things is I know you have a goal of kind of helping to close the education and wealth gap in America. And, I really want us to unpack that on Tuesday. I know your accolades include speaking at, MegaFest by Bishop T.J. Jakes. You've been on programs with Roland Martin, and you also are a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award winner. How does that feel?
Yes, sir. Man, that was amazing to be. And I never do this for acknowledgement. I really do this because I want kids to have a brighter future. As I guess stereotypical as that may sound, but that's my heart is winning for kids. But every once in a while, to be acknowledged or to be appreciated and to be recognized even on that level is it feels good. And I really, what I hope is that some of these acknowledgments open additional doors so I can maneuver into places and help people to build the education systems that they need to, where maybe they wouldn't have listened if they didn't hear that I received this fancy award. But that's what it means to me. Is I hope that it makes somebody say, "Oh, maybe we should listen and work with this brother so we can build what we need to build." And that's my goal, is to use it for good. I love the acknowledgement, but if I could use this to get me in some doors to help people build better systems for kids, that's really what I do it for.
Well, awesome, man. Well, thank you again for taking some time out to be with us on this early Saturday morning. And I am just looking forward to Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, when we will get a chance to really unpack some of the things that you've done and kind of get a vision for what you have for the future as far as Dr. Paul Miller and, education and that type of thing. So, man, thank you again, and look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. I
can't wait. I look forward to being there.
All right. Everyone, you are listening to The Real Money Coach Show. We're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back, and we're going to finish our show out, and I'm going to dig a little bit into these 3 or 4 court cases involving student loan forgiveness. I'm Tony Jackson, your Real Money Coach.
Family, join author Tony Jackson for the Real Money Coach broadcast each and every Saturday morning from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9. Mr. Jackson enlightens you on the real secrets of money. He'll also help you increase, protect, and dominate your money. You can also catch Tony Jackson's The Real Money Coach every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube. Check out The Real Money Coach, Mr. Tony Jackson, every Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Praise 100.9.
Hey, Tony Jackson here. You know me as The Real Money Coach. Listen, I want to encourage you to do something. And what I want to encourage you to do is email me your questions, your comments, or even suggestions of topics that you'd like us to cover on the Real Money Coach Show. You can email it to info@therealmoneycoach.com. Again, that's info@therealmoneycoach.com. Email us your questions, your comments, your suggestions, and we will answer those on air and also on our Facebook Live YouTube show on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you email us so that we can get that information that you want to know in your ears. I am Tony Jackson, the Real Money Coach.
And welcome back to the Real Money Coach broadcast with author and host, Tony Jackson.
All right. Welcome back to the Real Money Coach Show here on Praise 100.9, Charlotte's Inspiration Station, and every place that you get your podcast. Listen, I really encourage you to do this. Let your family and friends know about what we're doing at the Real Money Coach Show. Wonderful guests like you just heard, Dr. Paul Miller, and what he's doing in terms of advocating for black men, students. His record in terms of graduation rate is like 95%, right? As a principal, and 100% acceptance college of those 95 graduation rate, 100% of them accepted into college. I mean, that's tremendous. And now, of course, he's overseeing a number of different schools because of the success he's had as a principal and CEO of the Green Tech High School Charter School in Albany, New York. So now, here we are. We're back into our discussion about student loan debt. And I mentioned to you that actually on March 17th, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Department of Education. And this was really can lead to or will lead to forgiveness of billions of dollars of student loan debt. Now, this particular lawsuit was filed by a group of students, former students, that claim that the Department of Education failed to administer the public service loan forgiveness program properly. Now, let's talk a little bit about that, because we have talked so much about the student loan forgiveness that we saw in the news. Well, there's two other programs of student loan forgiveness that have been around for a long time. And so one of them is the public service. So if you work for a nonprofit, right? So you work for a 501(c) nonprofit company. And the other is if you work for a government entity like the county, like schools or the state, and you have 120 payments, monthly payments, you can have your student loans forgiven. And so that program is there. The particular lawsuit that I'm talking about right now was filed by the students that said that the Department of Education did not file or they failed to administer that program properly. And so they filed, and the recent ruling is in the form of a class action lawsuit that actually won. So this will probably help a whole lot of people who have worked in the public sector, nonprofits, those type of things, to have that debt forgiven after 10 years. And so I don't know if many people know that, but if you have this student loan debt, I mean, and it could be, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, work for 10 years in the public sector, then you can have your student loan forgiven. Now, you have to have 120 payments, right? So that's 10 years times 12 in order to get that. The other student loan forgiveness program that's been there's one for teachers. Now, the one for teachers is if you work in a low-income school district or school, that if you have done that for 5 consecutive years, it doesn't have to be the same school, but a low-income school, which is probably Title I school, you do that for 5 years, you can have up to $17,500 of your student loan forgiveness, of your student debt forgiven. So as a teacher, 5 years, 5 consecutive years, Title I school, have $17,500 of your student loan debt forgiven. Now, we have to remember this, that the two programs can be stacked on top of each other. So the program that I just mentioned, the public service loan forgiveness, can be stacked on top of the teacher loan forgiveness. Now, you can't count the same time period. So, for example, if you go for the teacher program and you have 5 years, and then that student loan, that 17.5 is forgiven, you have to go another 10 years in order to get the public service loan forgiven. So if you're thinking about doing that, you might want to think real hard am I going to go for the public service and by doing 10 years in public service and having all of my student loans forgiven, or am I going to do the 5 years and have the 17.5 forgiven? And then if I want to go on and have the rest forgiven by working in public service, I'd have to do another 10 years of public service in order to have the rest done. So you just want to make sure you're playing that strategically. So that's one class action lawsuit. The other, as I mentioned earlier, is that the Supreme Court actually has ruled in favor of the Department of Education in terms of it was Sweet versus Cardona. It was a multi-year class action lawsuit filed against the Department of Education. And, the Trump administration stalled it and that type of thing. And so now, under this agreement, the Biden administration will automatically provide $6 million in student loan forgiveness to about 300,000 borrowers who attended certain covered institutions and, have submitted the proper paperwork. And so that's great news for those individuals involved in that. And so that's really a big deal to understand that you're going to have, 300,000 borrowers that will have, a certain amount of their student loan forgiven. Now, the case that we're most familiar with is the one that was recently presented by, Biden. And this is the way it reads, the Biden-Harris administration. I think that's very clever and strategic to call it Biden-Harris, right? So they still have to decide what's going to happen on the student loan forgiveness in terms of if you receive a $10,000 student loan forgiveness, or if you received a Pell Grant, it would be $20,000 of student loan forgiveness. And so that case is still to be decided. Now, what you need to know about that is that the stay on paying your student loans is right now through the end of June. So through June 30th, if the Supreme Court has not made a decision on this particular case, then 60 days after that, your student loans go back. So in terms of you having to make payment. So the way that it's written is 60 days after the decision by the Supreme Court, or 60 days after June 30th, whichever comes first, your student loan repayment will have to start back. So you want to remember that, keep that date in mind, and we're going to be watching this case very closely. We're going to be bringing you updates as things kind of evolved regarding that. So you want to make sure that you stay in tune to the Real Money Coach Show here on Praise 100.9 and through our podcast. Listen, it's been another great Saturday morning. Thank you for being a part of the family. Make sure you join our Facebook group called the Real Money Coach Community, and we'll see you on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. I'm Tony Jackson. I'm your host. You know me as the Real Money Coach Show. Have a great weekend.
We hope you've enjoyed the Real Money Coach broadcast with author and host Tony Jackson. We encourage you to utilize today's strategies and principles to manage your money in the most effective and winning way. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to send us an email, TonyJacksonAgency@gmail.com, or you can reach us on all social media platforms. And if you would like a copy of Tony Jackson's book, Increase, Protect, and Dominate Your Money, log on to www.therealmoneycoach.com. Until next week's empowering broadcast, God bless.